not really about new techniques as much as creative process. So please, yeah, just check this out and let's just focus on how you can stretch and explore your creativity in some new flexible ways to check out some new cool stuff that you might do for this revision project. The first thing, though, I did want to start with is a new thing about Photoshop. I mentioned how you could be looking at the pixel dimensions for your images to figure out if any of them are smaller or bigger than others that you want to use. And the way to do that, there's actually a couple ways you could do that, but the way that I'll demo a couple here actually, just for safety. One way that you could do that would be the fastest and most direct way to do it would be to go to this bottom left area of the window of the image and click on this little side notch right here to get this pop-up menu, and you want to choose Document Dimensions. When you click on that, then you're going to see how many pixels there are. This number you can actually ignore. It says 72 ppi. For technical reasons, just ignore that. And maybe I'll explain that later, but it's just not going to be anything that you use now. But what you do want to look at is the total number of pixels. As we can see here, it's about 3100 by 4100 pixels. 3100 pixels across, and then about 4100 pixels for the vertical dimension. That's what you want to be looking at, and if you click on each of your images, just like one at a time, you can quickly change each of them to show you the document dimensions. I already have it for that one, and not yet for this one. Document dimensions. Let's see, I think I got them all there. So as I go through these images one by one, and clicking on the tabs one by one works fine here. You can also do Control Tab, at least with a Macintosh. Control Tab is a keyboard shortcut to just sort of cycle through various files that you have open on your computer within a given application. So yeah, just going through, I can pretty quickly see that these are all the same size, but for whatever reason, I still don't know why this is a little bit smaller. Even though I shot it with the same camera, this is my smartphone that I use to take this picture, but for some reason it's smaller than the other ones. I don't know why, but like sometimes that kind of thing can happen. Like I said, like when you're transferring files, there can be some algorithm, some sneaky algorithm at play somehow that will shrink down the image a little bit. So I am noticing that my portrait image is actually smaller than my other one. So I wouldn't want to use this one for this revision project. And also just in general, keeping in mind how you can maintain greater image quality. The more pixels you have in your image, the higher the quality it is, simply put. So I wouldn't want to use this as my destination, but I could use one of these others. So let's just sort of like say, I'll use my poem, as the destination. So I'll go to this portrait. Command A to copy, Command A to select all, Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste. And I'm seeing it right here. When I actually paste it, I'm actually seeing the difference in size between one and the other. And then I'm going to convert this to a smart object, and then I'll just stretch this up to make it a little bit bigger for now, and I'll probably change that a little bit in a moment. And then for the other image, let's yeah, this grass, like just as an extreme close-up, you might want to try an extreme close-up of, like really interesting visual textures, because it could have just like an interesting feeling. It could have just like an interesting mood that comes across, yeah, mood or feeling or something that can feel like atmospheric. I'm going to try this demo with actually different images to look at variety. It's another really great way to stretch and explore is by trying out different images and blending them and having them actually all in your master file at the same time to just, give you the flexibility to just try different things with them and see what comes of it. Oftentimes, like with art making processes, you don't really know how it's going to turn out until you actually make it happen. And it's always good to actually have different things going on that you can try pretty quickly and compare the differences to see which version, speaks most eloquently, or which one feels most poetic or creative. Okay, so there's that, and I'm going to bring in this fire image as well. So I have a bunch of layers in here, and just for good measure, why not bring in this cloud image, which we saw before. Ooh, not in that file though, but in this one. Okay, then I want to save this before I go too far, just to make sure I'm not going to be losing my work in case Photoshop freezes up. So save as, and just really quickly for the demo, I'll just say I am poem revision. It's my master file, great, PSD, in my project folder. Okay, I'll turn the eyeball off on this, and I'm going to focus for now on the fire and just see what happens here. I'll convert this to a smart object so I can play with resizing it, and then let the games begin. So I'll just jump straight to overlay. Why not? Make these both overlays just to sort of see how things are looking. And this is where I want to explore the things I talked about in class about changing the sizes, making them a little bit bigger so you can actually recompose, reposition. So for example, just really quickly at the get-go, wow, that's kind of interesting. Like I have like an unusually large version of the portrait, and then I have it like off-centered like this, for example. If it goes like this, and I have like a distraction of like, you know, like there's this big line that would result, that could be a really big distraction, or maybe not. Maybe like this really hard line at the edge of the paper is kind of intriguing how it, you know, makes the whole composite come together. But, you know, in this case, I'm going to actually bring this back here. And just, you know, instantly, I'm actually pretty interested. Now, this poem itself, there's a little bit of an edge visible, like the top of the paper. I'm going to unlock the poem layer, convert it also to a smart object, so I can actually do some stretching myself with this one. Maybe I don't want all the eyes there. So, and maybe I could actually just sort of rotate it. Like maybe it's kind of interesting if the eyes are sort of like visible a little bit right here, and then they sort of drop off right here. I'm also like, you know, looking at which words sort of show up. All of this stuff comes together. You know, questions is on the forehead, like in this arrangement, and that's kind of interesting. I see other things, you know, popping out. That's kind of interesting. Already, I have a really different version than the original, and honestly, like just by just changing the size of your portrait and repositioning it, you know, like another possibility would be to have it sort of like down here, you know, like so I'm sort of popping in from the left and the bottom edges, and then there's like more of this negative space. If I were to do that, I might change the fire because the fire is kind of centered, and I might sort of like, you know, have the fire repositioned, and maybe it's like this. And then what if I actually have another image? Why not? I don't have to have just one other image. I could actually have a combination of other images. And so what if it's like clouds and sky? And that becomes, you know, kind of interesting unto itself. So that's another thing too I'd be thinking about is multiple images for this project. It could be two different photos that come in to blend with your poetry and your portrait. So let me just try some different things for the clouds. And the power line, yeah, you know, as I'm looking at this, I'm not crazy about the power line, like, you know, being right there on my face. And so if I'm not happy about that, I could go to the edit menu, and I could flip it horizontally, so that it's on the other side of the image. Ooh, well that's kind of crazy. Clouds just sort of like cover my face. And why not? That's kind of interesting. If I reduce the opacity a little bit, it could get a bit of a blend there, just to get a hint of the face detail. But I don't have to see a lot of the facial detail in order for something, you know, to communicate the fact that there is a face, the fact that there is, you know, like, you know, my face, or at least a face. As long as it's, you know, like a little bit visible, doesn't have to be, you know, entirely clear and visible. But I see a little bit of the hint of the eye right there, and the hair clearly is visible here. And so there we go. Let me go back to my poem layer, explore other possibilities. I can make it like really quite big, so that, you know, like so much light and beauty. Ah, well that becomes kind of interesting. You know, if I have fire and clouds, maybe so much light and beauty, so much light, the world, beauty, stars, these other words, hurt, you know, kind of intriguing, maybe coming in as like a contrasting idea within the sense of the poem. So yeah, you know, like literally in a sense and figuratively, I'm composing my portrait by positioning things in the image, but also like which words are visible, which ones are not visible. That's also a matter of composition, you know, of the poem itself, like what comes across for the viewers visually, what words get emphasized. And we talked about that already, of course, with our class review and discussion. Something else to be considering is rearranging the order of the layers. Just by changing the order of the layers, there's a really different result because of their relative positions to each other. I could have the poem on top. Now there's no blending mode, so just sort of, you know, get things going there. Let me just give it a quick blending mode right here, and just sort of see, you know, like what happens as I just rearrange the order of these things. Ooh, I'm liking that. You know, just like on gut level. Certain kind of contrast and saturation. There's a certain intensity. It feels more fiery. And now that I'm thinking of fire, and I actually love the intensity of this that reminds me of fire, maybe I'll try different blending modes of the fire. Whoa, too much. But what if I reverse the order? What if it's on bottom? Ah, well, that's interesting. So again, this is all part of what I wanted to share with you in the demo. Being really flexible with your materials, giving yourself all these possibilities to change the layer ordering, change the blending modes, which you guys are already doing. Change by going to Command T or Free Transform is the long way to get there. You know, change the sizes of these things and rotate them, move them around in different positions to get a sense of different arrangements and different effects that will arise with the final blend. So just be really flexible about all that stuff in your process. The real big value of this revision process is to give you a chance to really just push yourself in terms of your flexibility, you know, honestly. How flexible can you be and how fluid can you be in terms of moving things around, being loose and flexible in terms of, you know, like the sizing of things. And maybe honestly there is something interesting as I'm thinking about it, having like, you know, two images side by side. You know, like what if I have the fire image now cropped in a certain way, where it's sort of like a, you know, like a split, you know, between left and half. And that could be like a different kind of concept, you know, coming into this. In this case, I don't know, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't work. I would definitely need a different blending mode, I think, for my poem so that more of the poem is a little bit more visible, like this. And then I could reduce the opacity so those letters are not quite as strong as they were, you know, sort of like a little bit of a fade coming across. And yeah, you know, I'm not crazy about, you know, just myself artistically like this split in the middle, but it's a possibility. It's something that actually could work for, you know, one of your pieces. If I were to do the split, actually now I'm actually more sold on it. If I reposition the face, then the split of the two images, in this case, at least visually, is more interesting. I may or may not, you know, really do it because I'm going to just sort of like reflect on, you know, whether or not it works, you know, like for any potential meanings that come across. But at least visually and compositionally, it's not bad at all. Yeah, it's not bad at all. It's working okay compositionally. And maybe I'll just try some different blending modes here, just to see what else comes across. Kind of interesting with divide. Let me increase opacity. Yeah. Wow. Let me just go to full screen here. Fit screen with my zoom tool. Tab to make all that stuff disappear. So, you know, the interesting thing is in a matter of like, you know, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I've actually come across easily 3 or 4 different possibilities for this, which are all very, very different from each other creatively and visually. And they're actually all pretty good. You know, they're all interesting in just different ways. So on a deeper level, like how you can make the final judgments for which one you might go with your gut is one of the things to be thinking about. Like on a gut level, which one, you know, just gives you like more of the yes feeling. But then also thinking about the words of the poem. Which composition, which arrangement between these various layers can help bring out certain meanings or certain senses or certain emphases within the poem. And that's going to be something that's an important question as well to, you know, make these final decisions for what the final image is going to be in this radical and really big creative revision for your I Am poem composite. Okay, that's the end of my, my demo here. Thanks for watching.